Hey guys, Philippa Hanna here, and welcome to the Stained Glass Stories podcast. In this podcast, I'm going to be speaking to some incredible people about their music, their ministry, their songwriting, their faith journey, and most importantly, the way God has managed to shine a light into a situation in their lives. When we go through difficult times, it can be really hard to make sense of it. So we're going to hear lots of examples within these podcasts of the way God has managed to shine into a life and paint a beautiful picture or tell an incredible story. Today on the podcast, we have the incredible Lucy Grimble. Lucy is a London-based worship leader, singer-songwriter, artist, worship pastor, and she is incredible at sharing the stories behind her songs. So today we're going to hear about disappointment, about heartbreak, and how to keep letting God in during those times. So grab a brew, come and hang out with us, and we'll see you at the end. Also, stay tuned to the end to find out how you can win a copy of Lucy's brand new album, plus a copy of my new album, Stained Glass Stories. Speak to you in a bit. Welcome, Lucy Grimble, to the very first Stained Glass Stories podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
What a privilege to hear the first one.
Well, to be honest, it's just nice to talk to a human being, right?
Very true.
Nice to have some human interaction.
Or a human being, not Joel, maybe, because you obviously have Joel to talk to.
Of course, yeah. He still counts as a human being, even after 6 months of lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been a tough time for us musicians. So obviously I've explained in my intro a little bit about you. You're a worshipper, you're a songwriter. You also work for a church. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that, because that's kind of a relatively new development, I think, since lockdown life began. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was just before lockdown. So I started this was on the post of worship pastor in January. And in my head, it was just going to be an interim thing because our previous worship pastor left. And then my vicar kind of came to me and just said, do you want to lead a bit more worship in the new year? Because we're really going to be desperate. And I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And then I just kind of thought, actually, I think they need more than that. They need someone to kind of look after the team. So I just said, why don't I just take it on in the interim while you're looking for someone permanent? Little did I know that I was going to fall in love with the role and fall in love with the team. And it's just become this essential part of this season of life. Like, it just really feels like a God ordained thing, and just a place where, I've been able to kind of grow and develop the team, but also I feel like I have grown and developed in so many ways, just being part of such a kind of faith-filled team. The team that leads the church are just absolutely amazing. And I think, to be honest, it's been also a godsend during lockdown, because I've had the consistency of like meeting with this wonderful team of people every single week, come rain, come shine, and also being part of live streaming Sunday services. As tough as that has been, it's provided some kind of consistency in my life, which I think as a freelance musician is sometimes the thing that's the hardest, is when you have no structure, no consistency, and every day you're just having to be like, right, today is a new day and we're just going to have to figure out what we're doing. So yeah, the role has just become so important for me, and I'm just so grateful to God for this role.
That is so cool. I think in this time as well, that need for consistency has been even greater, because even the inconsistent things have kind of been replaced by this kind of thing, Zoom in, doing all the stuff we sort of normally did, like go out and do events, or especially over summer, all the festivals and stuff, that's kind of all just ground to a halt. So I imagine that's been amazing. When I saw you were doing that, I thought, wow, that's perfect for Lucy. So obviously we know you're a worshiper, we know you're a songwriter. My first introduction to you, we ended up at an event together. Do you remember in London? And we were kind of just stepping up, one of those events where someone gets up and does one song or two songs, and I was immediately blown away by your authentic sound, and I totally get the hype, Lucy. I get it. I get why you're so well talked about by folk, and why people love you and invite you to be involved in things. And I think it's because you've just got such a real and true, authentic sound, very effortless. Your voice is so effortless, but yet kind of just perfect and beautiful. And your songs are really beautiful too. But the Stained Glass Stories podcast is really about going behind the person and behind the songs and just getting to know the human behind the worshipper, because so many people see someone like you, even me, and I know what it's like behind the scenes. I even feel like, wow, here's a girl who's got it all together. I can't imagine her ever being, out of motivation or out of hope. I can't imagine her ever feeling desperate, but we all do, right? We all do have those moments. So I wanted to give you a chance to go behind maybe one of your favorite songs on the new record, which is coming out in November, right?
Well, very, very end of October.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. So hopefully this will be out before then. But the new album, beautiful, again, really authentic sounding worship album, different as well. Not like everything else, not like anything else. So, and I've loved songs like Goliath and He Is Love, Nothing Can Separate, Matt Redman collab you just did.
Yeah.
Tell me, is there a song on the album that for you is like a stained glass story, a story in your life where God's light has shone through and shown His glory to you?
Oh, Philippa, thank you for that introduction. Like, genuinely, thank you. And I just to say, I feel exactly the same about you. Like, there is such a realness to you. Like, whenever I hear you talk or share songs, there is such an honest heart. And I think we really need music and worship that champions that authenticity and that honesty, because you're right. Like, everybody feels this stuff. Everybody feels days where they're demotivated or where they are battling with unbelief or doubt or fear or whatever it might be. And we need songs that are going to meet us in those places, in the valleys as well as, on the mountaintops. So I just, really want to commend you as one of those people as well. And when you say my voice is effortless and perfect, I definitely don't think so, but I absolutely think that about you. That whenever you open your mouth,
thank you.
Like, has she got like an inbuilt auto tune? It's like ridiculous. Anyway, to answer your question, so the album is a real mix of songs, and I think it's a worship album, but not all of the songs are congregational worship songs. They're not all meant for a Sunday morning, but it's still all worship. Like, I count it all as worship, because for me, worship is about our hearts. Worship is about us being honest before the Lord, us coming before Jesus as we are, not trying to hide anything or trying to turn off any emotions or trying to pretend like any emotions aren't there. It's just being totally real and vulnerable and as we are before Him. So I think the song that I would want to highlight is actually, it's kind of like an unusual song to have on a worship album, because it's kind of this song of lament, but it sort of lament that turns to hope. But it's a song called Keep My Heart Open. And for me, it's like the crux. For me, this is the crux of worship. Like, keeping our heart open is continuing to worship God, like choosing to still be vulnerable with Him and still trust Him and still say, do you know what? I do not understand what is going on in life right now, but I'm going to keep my heart open to you, even though it's painful and even though it's so costly, to keep my heart open. And it's a song that I wrote in this season of really deep disappointment. I basically had my heart broken, and I was on a plane flying to Nashville to go on like this big songwriting thing, fresh off like having my heart broken. And
wait, I just have to stop you.
Yes.
Was it broken by a boy? I need to know.
Broken by a boy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wow.
But I think for me, like, singleness and relationships, as for like so many people, it's like a very scary place. And, to be in a relationship was quite a big deal. So then for a relationship to end, especially when it's a relationship that you feel is like really headed somewhere significant. Yeah, it felt like a wound getting reopened, and a really familiar disappointment that I'd sat in so many times. And, I was on this, and also it was done in quite a dramatic and quite brutal way, not by me. But anyway, so I was on the plane on the way to Nashville, just really sat in my feelings and just feeling so disappointed, just tired and fed up. And I just remember like having this really clear moment on the plane, just seeing myself on this knife edge. And it was like God was showing me, like, I was on this knife edge between letting my disappointment turn me away from God and letting my anger shut myself down to him. Or on the other side of the knife edge was this like place of radical trust and just running into his arms even harder, even though it didn't make sense, because I felt like, but this was not meant to go this way. And I just feel so like hurt and angry and all this pain and stuff. So I saw myself on this knife edge, and I just decided, do you know what? I'm going to choose to run like tear-streamed or like tear-stained face. I'm going to run into the arms of my Father, and I'm going to choose that I'm going to believe that I'm going to be met there with so much love and so much grace and like the opportunity for a new start. So it was this decision to keep my heart open. And the artwork for this song is a door. It's like in darkness, and then it's a door that is like just a little bit open and the light is shining through. And I feel like that is so often the decision that we have to make with God. It's like we want to just shut the door with him because of disappointment. Like disappointment is such a weapon of the enemy, I feel, to get us to close our heart down to God and to, focus in on ourselves and get us to be self-reliant and be like, do you know what, God, I've got this because you clearly can't be trusted with this area of my life. So I'm fine. I'm going to look after myself here. And actually in that place, we just miss out on the blessing that God has for us. We miss out on the grace that he has for us and the more that he potentially has for us that we don't believe he has got for us. So this image of like a door just being cracked open, because I think that's even just what it takes. It doesn't have to be this grand gesture like, yes, Lord, I believe that it doesn't have to be this hyped up faith moment. It can just be as little as like a whisper of like, but God, I'm still going to believe in you, but I will still trust you. So yeah, that is like the sort of, that's what led me to write that song. And it's kind of just been this kind of image or this phrase that stuck with me ever since. Like anytime I find myself just getting a bit hard-hearted during this pandemic, like so many times just feeling so angry with God and feeling so like, where are you? Have you left us all? Like, what on earth is going on? And just choosing to be like, I'm just still going to look to you. I'm still going to keep my heart like open to you so I can hear you, because I don't want to get disconnected from you. That's the worst thing. Like living in disappointment is one thing, but being disconnected from God, that's another thing.
That's a great message. The idea of over here, you've got disappointment. The next stage is potentially disconnection, but it's also this incredible opportunity to deepen that relationship we have with God. I mean, it's weird how similar your story is there to the whole story of my last album and the reason we're making this podcast. Because I'd had this situation where there'd been a divorce in the family, a church breakdown, and our whole lives were just in pieces. And we were on our way to a writing trip. And it was very much in Nashville. And it was very much like, this is okay. I love that you say you were sitting in your feelings as well, because we know, right, that's an amazing resource as creatives. As much as we don't enjoy it at the time, it's so good to see actually this is such a great resource and it's such a great opportunity to actually define what it's going to be in my life to worship. Yeah. And when you say you're a worshiper, for me, that's what a worshiper is. It's not a style of music. It's not what you do, where your platform is or anything. I think worship, really, you've just hit it right on the head, is that it's that cracked door at all times. Even when your heart is in smithereens. And I guess with a heartbreak, I'm going to push into this a little bit. I hope it doesn't make you uncomfortable. But I mean, firstly, I just want to slap this guy, because what a loser. How could that happen? But everybody listening will have had their heart broken at some point. But in that place of disappointment, would you say that it's not just about necessarily the kind of human side of heartbreak in a relationship where you sort of think, I'm losing that person, but it's also about the fact that suddenly the path isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, right? And how do you feel like, because the pandemic has been very much that, it's been like a derailing of all of our plans, like everything we thought we were going to be doing this year, we've just had to let go, really. And that's quite possibly what happened to you in that season as well. You were in a relationship, you thought perhaps this was your next step in life. How are you dealing with the disappointments that are coming from lockdown? And I know you've obviously been blessed in this new position. I'm so pleased for you with the church thing, but also you've been releasing music like I have in lockdown, and it just hasn't looked like we thought it was going to look.
Totally. And I think, I think everybody has lost something in this pandemic, or many things. And some people have really lost stuff, like have lost loved ones or have lost jobs. And, I know a number of friends who, are dads of young kids and they've lost their jobs. And so, I guess it's like we are all dealing with loss and grief on multiple fronts. And I guess, I think my form of disappointment and loss is much more minor in the sense that, I'm not, I thank God have not lost anyone. I still have a job with the church, and I'm still getting to release music, like you say. It's just that my world has just absolutely shrunk in on itself. And it's like where you're used to just having this freedom, and where you're used to being able to just go around, and you're used to being able to sort of like see the results and the work of your ministry kind of firsthand, with like loads and loads of people. Suddenly, I've just, when it was deep lockdown, it was, literally confined to these four walls and just getting insane cabin fever and feeling so trapped, and just wondering when's it going to end. And, I'm used to kind of just going, being on like, I'm just like quite a kind of driven person, quite a productive person. So I just felt suddenly like all my motivation levels just like sank, like just dropped through the floor. And then I was trying to have to get up every day and think, oh, I'm releasing this album, and it's kind of, this album's so important to me. So I was like, just, I guess, battling with, bigger questions of like, wow, what even is my purpose? I mean, I tend to kind of fall into a bit of an existential rabbit hole.
I'm glad I'm not the only one, Lucy.
Oh my God. It's so funny. I had dinner with a friend the other day, and he's like, but you're Lucy Grimble. You don't have existential crises. And I was like, that is just not true. Like, I have them pretty much every week. So yeah. And also I think, I feel like I'm a big feeler. Like, I feel other people's stuff as well. So I would just be walking around the street sometimes and feeling this sense of collective sadness and this collective, like, kind of fear, like, where on earth are we going? And so you're kind of just, every day it felt like I was being bombarded with all these crazy feelings and emotions, and as well being part of the church and seeing how so many people's lives have just been turned on their heads, and just feeling this responsibility towards our kind of community as well, and just so many people who are facing so much loss. So it's not even just your own emotions, it's not even just what is going on in your own head. Sometimes it's like what other people that you really love are going through, and like the kind of shared empathy, which is very, very draining. So yeah, I would say I found a lot of days during the lockdown just intensely draining, and I'd do like one thing in a day and be like, oh, I'm exhausted from doing one thing, where normally I'd do like 10 things and be kind of ready to do some more. So I think it just took me a while to be okay with the fact that my capacity had just dropped. And even now, I thought to myself last week, still feel like I'm on about 60% capacity, and I'm okay with that. Like, that's okay. I'm just going to have grace for myself and just work with that. And I'm sure maybe my capacity will come back, but even if it doesn't, I'll still be okay with that and have grace for myself. So, I feel like I've just given you a really rambly answer that maybe didn't answer the question.
Honestly, no, that was a perfect answer, actually. Because I do feel really encouraged, and I think a lot of people who are listening, because I found that as well. I'm also expecting a baby in January, and so that I feel like pregnancy does that to you as well. You just have fewer spoons. Have you heard the thing about disability and spoons? Well, if you've got any sort of chronic illness or whatever, you have basically a handful of spoons for the day. And one of those spoons might be getting up and getting yourself ready. The next one might be doing whatever household stuff needs doing. The next one might be a coffee with a friend. And basically when the spoons are gone, they're gone. And so you have to learn how to spend them. And, different times in life give us different numbers of spoons. And I completely relate that I feel like my spoons are in short supply. And I just...
It's like someone just took your spoons from you overnight and didn't tell you. I think that's the thing as well, because you're like, but there must be more spoons, because I'm used to having more spoons. And then, so just learning to be okay with that and learning to, have grace for yourself and for other people, because everybody's spoons have been taken away.
Exactly. That's the thing. And the collective anxiety, the collective grief that you just mentioned, again, I think it's in the air. It's almost in the air. And so I keep posting things on Facebook and people will say things like, how did you know that I felt like that today? I'm like, well, I didn't, but I think we all basically feel the same right now. I think that's what it is. We're kind of going through these motions of like things picking up a little bit. And then suddenly, we've got a new announcement, a new rule. I got new rules, I'm counting. I'll get a copyright strike now. All these new rules, it's so exhausting. And when you think you're on an upward kind of keel, you're coming back down. So all I can say is I'm so grateful that you are choosing to let these times be an opportunity for God to speak through you. And please keep doing that, because I think that's our job, really, isn't it? Our job is to sort of say what needs to be said and help other people to say what they need to say through the songs. And so it's not always about just communicating with God, but worship is about giving other people the words to communicate with God, isn't it? So, and you're really doing that.
I would say that is why it's so important that we write real songs, because we are literally putting words in other people's mouths. And I think that if these songs haven't cost us something, like if we haven't had to go through a journey with a song, or to go through a journey with an idea or a theme or a concept that has cost us or that has hit us in the heart, like, I don't know, I'm much more strict with myself now with the songs that I release, especially if I feel like it's a congregational worship song. Like, I have to have had a personal revelation of that song. Otherwise, I don't feel comfortable giving it to other people to sing to the Lord, because I want to be able to be accountable for that song. And if someone asks me about it, to be like, yeah, this is what I believe to be true. Not just this is what I've read in scripture, because I think there's a difference. Like, we can read the word, but actually when the word becomes life to us, when the word becomes real, like Rhema word, that's a whole other thing, and then you're writing out of such a rich place and such a sort of a deep place, rather than just words on a page, if that makes sense.
I want to encourage you as well, because I feel like that is one of the benefits of being a solo artist as opposed to a member of a church's worship ministry, which you are as well. Obviously, you're a worship leader in a church, and I've done that for many years as well. But having an artist point of view, which is basically a personal point of view, like David, like the Psalms, it's a personal point of view. It's not just what's our teaching series this month, what's our church going through, but it's actually what am I going through, because that is important, because so much of it is shared with everybody else with what we're going through. So I'm so encouraged by your ministry. I love your songs so much. So the song is called Disappointment?
No, the song is inspired by disappointment, but it's called Keep My Heart Open.
Keep My Heart Open. Much better title.
Well, Keep My Heart Open in brackets.
Disappointment. Yeah. It's a big thing. Somebody close to me once said, disappointment's one thing. What you don't want to live in is discouragement. When disappointment becomes discouragement, that's very debilitating, because from there, you can start to change your whole living posture in a really bad way. But we've all had disappointments this year, and I'm so excited for everyone to hear your song. Do you have a release date for the song? Or?
Well, it will just be out with the album, which is the 30th of October.
Amazing.
First, literally.
Wow. I'm so excited.
It's
going to be brilliant. So obviously, socials, where can people find you to find out more about you, your website, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm online. I've got a website, lucygrimble.com, or I'm just on socials as Lucy Grimble.
Follow Lucy Grimble, guys. You're going to enjoy it. You'll enjoy seeing her live. You'll enjoy hearing her music. And yeah, girl, keep going. We're behind you. Can't wait to hear the album.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys, to the Stained Glass Stories podcast. I really hope you found that inspiring. I sure did. And you know what? You hung out till the end, so you get to find out how you can get your hands on a free copy of Lucy's brand new album. The album's due out at the end of October, but you could have it before then. If you just hop on over to my official YouTube channel and hit subscribe, and then pop to Lucy's YouTube channel and subscribe there, we will pick somebody at random from the bunch and send you guys some goodies. You're going to get a copy of Lucy's album and a copy of Stained Glass Stories as a thank you from me. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys for another Stained Glass Story next time.